the position card. Now I got this card, I pulled this card after talking about my new position as guild master, and as guild master because I got the initiation for the door some time ago. Yeah, I already did some videos about that stuff. When that happened, there was a whole work to do with that, which is somewhere on the channel. I'm not sure what it's called. Okay, so in the position, I'll go through the main features. But first of all, anybody who has a position in God has a hat. And if you don't have a hat, you don't have any position. You're positionless. Anybody walking around the world without a hat on is positionless. Now, it's interesting because I forgot I've got the wrong hat on. So this is interesting. I feel like I'm talking pretty ordinary too, and so this is my ordinary hat because I've just been out to the shop, and if you wear your position, your proper position hat, then you can be as strong as that position, and you can have more than one hat. As you do more than one job, you could be a lawgiver, or you could be a philosopher, or you could be a master of some art, or you could be somebody in the legal profession. There's all sorts of positions on the great way, on the great chain, and the great chain of being, because the chain is what links all these positions together, forever going upwards from humanity to God, nature. Each position closer to God and closer to the angels. And so I'm struggling to say this, the word say, I'm struggling to do this card with this hat on, because this hat is my going to the shops hat when I want to be incognito. And so my normal working hat, which I do the cards in, is normally this one. This is the hat of the prophet and the hat of the philosopher. Okay, a prophet and a philosopher is the same thing really. All philosophers become prophets one day, and there are many steps that you can be on, many different positions on the philosophy school, if you like. Those people studying the art of philosophy, which is a study of wisdom, which is the highest of the subjects we study, and a subject that every person needs to study. And as they get older and move wisely up the great chain of being, occupying different positions, they will end up as a philosopher if they carry on long enough. Because there's also other arts that you need to learn, and every art, the art of photography is similarly it's a position on the great chain of being. And there are a number of different positions, and so you start off as an apprentice to a master of whatever you're studying. Okay, generally you meet a master and you work together with the master, you help the master, and the master teaches you as much as the master knows. And at some point you become a bachelor of the art. A bachelor is someone who doesn't have a lady. You're not allowed to have a lady if you're an apprentice or you're a bachelor. You're supposed to just don't even look at the ladies. You'll never find a lady, and if you did, something bad would happen to you. Okay, because your position is not high enough yet to allow you to have a lady. Okay. Now, when you are examined for your master degree of mastery, if you like, when you become a master of some art, you have to create masterworks, right? And for the lower positions on the great chain of being, the kind of work you're expected to produce is not significant. Yet the higher you go on the position, the more larger the works become and more difficult, more demanding. And so for the position that I'm currently have obtained, the masterwork, which has already been accepted, because God knows I'm going to finish it, I can't help myself. Because at some point on this great chamber, you become a slave of God, which means that it's not possible for you to disobey the will of God. You cannot possibly fall off the pathway any longer, okay? That's what's called a slave of God. You can be a servant of God. A servant of God can fall off the pathway, serving God, but sometimes he's serving himself. Can be. Ideally he is not, of course, he or she. And so you submit your masterwork. In my case, my masterwork is the 100 cards of Adam Eye of Light. This is a big job. I'm on, I think this is number 21, video number 21. And I've been going for a lot, yeah. I have to upload all these large videos, and there's 100 of them. So I'm 1/5 of the way through my great work. So I hope you appreciate the cards. Your masterwork won't be as demanding as that, but you'll have to do something with using your art. If it's photography, you end up taking a series of photographs and having an exhibition. You can do this online. Yeah? There are many ways to do this now without incurring a lot of cost. And similarly, every art has its works, and these works are then examined by God. Because God, that's important, in the blue over here, the cup, God is the one initiator. The one initiator, the silent watcher. And you cannot be initiated by a human, by a man. You cannot. No person can come to you. No angel can come and initiate you. It's got to be God directly through you. If you've got no knowledge of God, you haven't taken an initiation yet. And part of the journey before you do your masterwork, and normally you do your masterwork whilst doing it, is you go on pilgrimage. Okay, you leave your place where you are, your place that you belong in, your little house or your little flat or whatever it is, and you hit the road, Jack. You take no money, you take nothing for the journey, take no food, take no money, take no nothing. You just go. Maybe you have a back on your back. If you're clever, you have some sticks, and God will give you these sticks. And you'll be on your pilgrimage, heading wherever God takes you, meeting whoever you meet, sleeping on sacred sites. Maybe you're taking photos if you're doing the photo initiation. And a lot of the people these days probably are on the photography initiation, because most people take photographs. Yeah. And so, somewhere along the way you create your masterwork. If you're art, you've got to do painting. If you're painting, you might do typically you'll do your pilgrimage, and at the end of your pilgrimage you arrive somewhere, and then you'll do your artwork when you've got some place to do it in there. And after you complete the artwork, you'll have some visions, perhaps, and you might have the word of God, God will give you the big word. Yeah, some special signs will manifest in your life. You will know, without doubt, that you've been initiated by God. There's no doubt of this. You'll know about it. And you simply, if you haven't, you simply have to wait until you have. And at that point, you then will be looking for a new hat. And perhaps at the final end of your pilgrimage, you'll lose your hat. Your hat will blow off or something out the car window or into the water or something like that. Your hat will be gone, because whenever you change position, there's a new hat. There's a new hat. Each position has its hat. And so there are various types of hats, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because you might cheat. And so you cannot help yourself. You have to be wearing whatever hat God puts on your head. And so just know that if you walk past me, I know exactly what your position is just by looking at your hat and what you're wearing. Because these objects that you have on you, everything that you wear, every object you have is an object of rank. I'm going to take 5. Okay, now objects of rank. I just want to show you something. Normally, when you're starting to get on your first pilgrimage or so and you're walking away, normally somebody tells you, or you just you see an opinel. There's an opinel knife, okay? You can see that. It's an opinel knife, right? And there are a number of numbers of opinel knives. Opinel knives go number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. There's 10 different opinel knives, yeah? And then there's opinel other objects as well. They're opinel bags, and there's all sorts of weird opinel things that I've had every one of them, believe me. Every single one of the opinel objects I've acquired somehow. It's been given to me somehow. Every one of them. Every number. The bag. All sorts of other stuff. I can't remember even what they were now. Yeah, okay. And so everybody who's walking the great way, on the great chain of being, they have one of these things, okay? And it's a mystery. It's not really, but if you understand why they have them. I'm probably the only person. Well, I did walk around the world telling people about it, so maybe they know now. I don't know how far it spread. But I was the only one who knew what opinel knives were all about. What people had them, but didn't know what they were all about. But I met a lot of people with opinel knives on the rainbow gatherings, which were some gatherings that used to be held. I don't know if they're still held, probably not. Where people used to travel freely on the way and gather together in freedom and in meeting, like the tribes used to do. And I noticed that all of these people, I had an opinel knife and all these people had opinel knives, and they were different numbers and that. And I studied all the opinel knife mystery of the mystery of the opinel knife. And so, and there's different woods as well. You get rosewood one and the ebony one, and oh my God, it just goes on and on forever. And so, like the hat, you lose your opinel knife. What you generally do with the opinel knife is you give it away. You give it away. and this part of the challenge. You feel like giving your knife away, and you say, "Oh, I got to give you this." Here you go. You give it to somebody. It's part of your initiation. So it's like a test, yeah. And I don't know how many opinel knives I've given away. Probably not hundreds, but maybe 50, something like this. Maybe 50, yeah. but I've certainly had at least 20 opinel objects, different ones in my time, different colours, different woods, different numbers, permutations thereof. Now, the reason you've got an opinel knife is because when you're on the great chain of being and you have a position thereon, okay, you've got a hope in L. Now L is God. L is God. And opinel, ope in L. So you've got an ope in L. And so if somebody says, have you got an open L? Say, no, I haven't got an open L. I haven't got an open L, right? So all the people who don't have open L, they haven't got a hope in hell. Right? They're living in hell. And if you've got an open L, you're on the great chain of being, going back, you've got hope in God, you're going back to God. It's straightforward if you understand it. Signs in the universe. And so there are times when you have no open L, because you gave it away to somebody else, but you'll get another one. Yeah. Doesn't matter, you get another one. And there are other knives too that you need to work your way through, bigger ones and swords and all sorts of stuff. You don't even want to know. You don't need to know, because you'll just, if you get to that level, you'll, if you ever have to go through the sword master initiation, you'll know all about it. You'll be a live one. You'll have been travelling away, great way, for at least 12 years. Okay. Now there's something else. Oh yes, I want to tell you. There are higher positions than masters. Okay. Now, a master is somebody who's created a masterwork, who studied the existing masters. Okay, so to be a master, you study the existing masters, you kind of copy their works. They're new works of your own, but they're not breaking new ground. You know? They're based on what's currently understood to be art, the art, okay? And so if the current art is expressionism and you're doing expressionist paintings, then you're an expressionist painter. You haven't created a new art, have you? But Picasso created Cubism, yeah? Because he was not a master of painting, the art of painting. He was a doctor of the art of painting. Now you see the difference now. Now a doctor is somebody who brings a new technique, or a new, who extends the wisdom of the art. Okay, right? So I'm a doctor of everything I do. I have to be who I am. I've created new ways of taking photographs, so I'm a doctor of photography. I've created new ways of doing art, of creating artwork, totally new ways of doing it. I'm a doctor of the visual arts. Yeah, I've created new ways of making videos, all sorts of different new things that I've done that nobody else has done before me. I've combined all of the media in ways that nobody has done before. So I'm a doctor of these things, and I've brought teachings to the world that nobody's ever known before. And so I'm a doctor of philosophy, and I'm a doctor of the church. You've heard of the doctors of the church. These were the people that brought the new stuff to the church. So Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ just means Jesus the Messiah. Jesus the Messiah, Jesus, that one who was the Messiah, that's what Jesus Christ means. He was Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth was a doctor of the church. Yeah, that's what he was. And so was Krishnamurti, was a doctor of the church. But you could be a doctor of motor engineering, motor vehicle engineering. Elon Musk is a doctor of motor engineering. He created new technologies for cars. He's a doctor of robotics. He's a doctor of many things. Like I have many things in the spiritual realms that I'm a doctor of. He has many things in the physical realms that he's a doctor of. Okay. You can be a doctor in music. Yeah. You can create new ways, totally new types of music, never been heard in the world before. And you're a doctor of music. Doctor puts right, improves what's never been done before, does what's never been done before. Yeah. So he probably has a slightly different hat, a different opinel. Things change, the doctor. The doctor probably has the exotic wood opinels, stuff like that. But you get to a point where you've been through so many opinels that your opinel is just what you cut your cheese with. It doesn't mean anything for me, because I have other objects that take the place of the opinel, greater things than the opinel. So my opinel is just an opinel. But I do have one. Sometimes I don't have one, but I have, the last few years, I have kept an opinel because they're very useful cutting tomatoes and things like that. You always have to wipe your opinel so it doesn't get rusty. You need the opinel with a carbon blade, not the one with a stainless steel blade. Don't bother with those things. And you'll need an opinel to make your houses and to do all sorts of stuff with wood. You can't. I'm a doctor of yurt making. I made yurts like nobody's ever seen before. A doctor of architecture, yeah. So you can do all these things. You can be doctors like, you can be greater doctors, must you all be. You must be. Because there's nothing special about any one of us. Once we go on this great chain of being and take the various positions as they lead upwards, we'll be taken all the way, as far as we can go. Yeah. Now I'm going to take 5, and then I'm going to come back to, we've gone to the high subject of it. I want to talk about the lower positions, the positions in the world, because you don't want to be like 10 years old and a high priest, because you won't have experienced anything in the material world yet. So we're going to come back and talk about that in a minute. Notice that in this video the figure isn't chopped off. The figure's not chopped off, because before I talk about that I want to talk about who gets a couple, who gets to be a couple. Okay, so you have to be a master at the master level. Both the lady and the gentleman need to be at the master level of some art to become a couple. Okay. And then to start to become a couple, to become a divine couple takes a long time and a lot of practice. Depending on how late you start, the later you start, the more difficult it is and the higher position you're going for in a great way. If you start with the girl next door, like my parents were, and you just met and fell in love and got married and just had a family, and this is a very easy way through life. And you become a master. My father was a master electrician, so he was allowed to have a wife. He also went to war. My mother went to war, fought in the Akat gun, so she was a master of that. So they were destined to be together, yeah. And so they had children, but they didn't have a spiritual practice of any sort, really. They didn't know anything about philosophy. They had a certain philosophy. My father was not a stupid man, yet they knew nothing about God or anything like that. And so they just tried to be good, but they still used to go drinking every weekend, and they became alcoholic towards the end of their lives for some reason. So that's your time in the world where you make your mistakes, yeah. Try to make as few mistakes as possible and try to stick with the same lady like Pete Seeger did, yeah. And if you make mistakes, such a bad mistake that you have to lose your lady, well then you start on a downward spiral, if you like, and yeah, it may be a nature in life where you come to a good position on the great chain of being. Yeah. When I was in the world, I was a master fisherman with boats and that. And I was a doctor of computer science, when I got married, when I met my first wife, I wasn't allowed to have a proper lady because I made so many mistakes. I was destined to have a bad woman to discipline me for 20 odd years, to pay for my crimes. And so, I don't know what I was going to say now. It doesn't matter. Oh, no, the other thing I want to say, this here, this is the way, this little yellow, I'll probably get a bit closer, hope we can see that, okay. Now, this little yellow line, this is the Great Way, the normal, situation normal. We're just going from day to day, doing our work, wandering along the Great Way, doing our work, you know, getting up in the morning, making our stuff, selling it, going to bed, whatever, freely doing what we're doing. And then we hit here, this is our initiation. And so we have to go stepwise up into our position. So there's many tests, different things that we have to do to complete a testing cycle, which then, if we pass all our tests, and part of that is with our masterwork, then we get raised into the position. And you'll see there's two eyes here, because you and your lady are not two, you do it at the same time, okay? You do it at the same time to get into the next highest position. And so that's why we have this picture over here, because this is a picture of the divine couple. And you'll see on the other side of the altar, you'll see there's the lady and the little Christ child. And this is you, and this is your lady over here. This is you and this is your lady. Because what your lady does is, she makes you into what you are. She forces you up the great way, into the great way, and into the great chain of being, and corrects you and makes you go when you need to go and do what you need to do. And so she's like, brings you up like a little Christ child, a little baby, and nurtures you through the whole journey. So my lady has been nurturing me for 15 years, yeah. Normally it doesn't take that long. Then I have a big job to do, because I was a big, big, bad sinner. So the worst people have the biggest jobs. Get the biggest jobs to win their wings, yeah. So I suffered immensely my whole life until about the age of 45, about 45, when I was brought into the light, something like this. Maybe it's enough. There's so much to it, so much to it. I did want to tell you about the junior levels, but I think you just have to find your own way, just to realise that we're all learning at the rate that we can learn at. And you don't need to be worried, you don't need to think about any of this stuff, because you're not planning anything. You're getting up in the morning and doing what you do. Oh, there's one thing I want to say, and that is, you should never ever take a job as a slave, working for somebody. Timing is interesting. You should never take a job as a slave working for somebody, because it won't lead you to mastery. Okay. My lady's telling me that she's at home now, she's making something, so we keep, if we go out, we let each other know. She's in Germany and I'm over here, we're miles, thousands of miles away. But we keep in touch. And this is nice, it's useful, because she's going through the same stuff you're going through all the time. Now, every time you come back to your lady after going on pilgrimage, you come back and you're really good. And I've noticed that if you're going for some of the lower material coupleships, you can do it together. You can go on your journey together. And what are these people? Some people make jewellery and sell it on the road, and there's all sorts of things. There's things that you can do that give you an income without you being the slave of somebody else and getting a job and having to go work in a factory or something like that. That's going to be no good. But you can actually, if you take a job where you're apprenticed to a master and it's leading to becoming a master yourself, then it's okay to do those kind of things. If your job is leading you nowhere, you're not going to start off as an apprentice, you're not going to be working with a master, that's no good. And a lot of the things that you do now, you don't need an actual real master, because you can access the masters on their YouTube channel. So if you want to learn anything, you can just find the master of it on YouTube and study them. And as soon as you start doing that, you subscribe to their channel. You become an apprentice to them, okay? And so, if you subscribe to my channel, you will be my apprentice. I won't need to even know about you. You just will be. That's the way it is. So that's the wonderful thing about YouTube. It's brought democracy back into the world. So Leonard Cohen said, "Democracy is coming to the USA." It is. It wasn't there, but it's coming. That's enough. Okay. I'll leave you on that note. No, I won't, because I'm going to pick the next card. So we finished doing position. There's more, much more I could say, but it's too much. It's all too much for you. So I'm going to put this away. I've already said too much. You might need to watch this video a few times. Okay. So we're picking a card without zooming in. Okay, what I need to say to you is that you may have drawn this card, because a new position is coming to you, or you're about to go through an initiation into a new position. Perhaps it's time to go on pilgrimage or something. There's something about changing position that's involved there. Maybe your objects of rank need to change, but there's probably a card in here called Objects of Rank, and so you get that card if it was that. And all the terminology I'm using, this is like a spiritual dictionary. Every word, phrase I'm using, there's a card for it in here. And so hopefully when you work your way through everything, it's all consistent and you'll know everything that I know. And you'll need to know it because it will speed your journey up, and your life will be much happier and much easier if you learn everything that's in these cards. Okay, I'm going to zoom in now, pick another card, if I do. Almost time for another candle. Okay, so we're picking the cards by division and elimination of what we don't want. And the card that we pick, that's what our video will be next time. So if you want to know what the reading is for that, you'll need to subscribe to the channel so you get notified. It'll come through your feed. Oh, okay, here it is. The lake. Okay. Something to do with the lady of the lake. We'll find out what this is all about next time. Thank you for watching.